Radio silence has an impact on your ex. And I'm going to talk to you about that today and how it relates to no contact, what makes it effective in its own way, and how it impacts your ex if they were the one who broke up with you. The first big thing that radio silence does to your ex is that it breaks the seek and find pattern. And basically that's where when we want an answer to something, we just Google it, or we check some other website or something like that, and we find the answer. Or we text somebody and we get the answer pretty quickly. But what about when you can't? Do you know how frustrating that is? I'm sure that you do. It's a little bit unusual in our day and time just because the answers are so readily available. Except when it comes to people. People can turn the knob. They can flick the switch and stop giving away information about themselves. And that's what you can do with radio silence. Radio silence is where you do not post on social media. You're obviously not texting them. You're not watching their stories. Basically, you are not participating in their life and you are not sharing any information that they can find about your life. And sure, that might impact other things like relationships with your friends and family. But if they text you and ask, you can tell them. And that's how you're going to be interacting with them. So if you choose to do radio silence, and of course, it's something that's done with no contact, because no contact is part of radio silence, but radio silence does not have to be part of no contact. I talk about that in some other videos. But basically, it's going to interrupt that expectation from them that they can seek out the answer and find it. And they can't find it because the answer is you. They don't know how you're doing. And I'm going to talk more about that a little bit later in this video. But it breaks that cycle, which is frustrating. And you want to cause frustration. You want this breakup to be frustrating for them and difficult. You want them to experience the consequences of breaking up with you. And that is, they cannot get information from you. And in so many ways, this is ripping the Band-Aid off as far as them losing intimacy with you. Because before, they were used to knowing what's going on in your life this week, today, what your expectations are for next week. That kind of thing. And of course, with deeper feelings and things like that. And they're not getting any of that. And so this really presses on what is typical after a breakup. And that is that even if they broke up with you, even if they think they had good reasons, even if their feelings faded, if this was a long-term relationship, 6 months or more, they are going to tremendously miss intimacy with you. That's going to be the thing they miss the most. And it can happen with a relationship that's less than 6 months, but it's going to be much more so with 6 months and more, especially when you're talking about relationships that have years of history. They're going to miss that intimacy with you. And this makes that really hurt because they are getting none of it. And so many times after breaking up with you, an ex will get information about you, or they'll go look at a picture of you or things like that. And they kind of get that feeling of being emotionally intimate with you and involved in your life in some way. But if all they find on social media are your old pictures, your old posts, it's not the same thing because they're not getting updated information about you. So they can't see into your life. They can't see what's going on in your week, in your month. And they can't see maybe who you're around, who you're with. And this makes them frustrated because they want to be enabled to continue with the breakup with no consequences. And this is the first consequence you can make them feel. They don't get intimacy with you anymore, even to minor levels. And so you just don't post anything on social media anywhere. You disappear, which is very mysterious, which helps too. Number 2 is radio silence oftentimes creates a psychological void where your ex is kind of forced to think about you. And this is just how the mind works, that when you are used to seeing someone and you can't anymore, your mind is drawn to them even more. And if they are in the relief stage, which I talk about in other videos, I have a video called Stages Your Ex Goes Through During No Contact where I talk about that. But if they are in relief stage, this is a quick way to get them out of that stage and into the curiosity stage where they're wondering what is going on with you because you are defying expectations. Most people, when they break up with someone, because of the fact that they want to end the relationship, they assume you don't. And so they assume you will do things to try to get them back. You'll chase, you'll plead, you'll beg. They don't necessarily expect it right away. They don't expect it necessarily at the breakup talk, though they might. A lot of times they're not thinking that far ahead. They're hoping it'll just go smoothly and with as little awkwardness as possible. But they're not really thinking that far ahead that much, especially if they're looking forward to just getting it over with and getting into that first stage of relief, because that's what it feels like for them. If I can get this over with, I can just do this break up with him, break up with her, and I can get into this relief and this freedom that I fantasize about that they are keeping me from. And so when you don't make any effort to keep them from it, you're radio silent, you're not chasing, you're not begging, you're not pleading. It really defies their expectations, which is a curious thing. And it brings them into curiosity, where they just have a curious mindset about you. And that's the most important one. If you can get them into curiosity, which usually happens if you go into no contact, especially if you add radio silence to it, it's pretty normal for them to become curious. And that can get them into further stages like concern. And so your absence in this way, to this extreme degree, creates a void in their mind. And without them even consciously doing this, their mind will create more questions like why and what's going on with you and who. Is there a who in the situation now? Have you moved on already? Just all kinds of questions. And as I mentioned in the first point, you are the only one with those answers. And giving them the answers, giving them relief, which will send them back to the relief stage or keep them there. And that's why no contact and radio silence can be so powerful in making your ex feel the consequences of the breakup. And they have to feel the consequences. They have to feel the negatives, or what's going to motivate them to actually want to do anything about it to change it. It's kind of like the story that Les Brown used to tell, where this man went to visit a farmer, and he went on the front porch and he sees this dog laying on the front porch, and the dog is whimpering. And so he says to the farmer, "What's wrong with your dog?" And the farmer said, "Oh, he's all right. He's just lying on a nail." And so the man said, "Why doesn't he get off the nail?" And the farmer said, "Well, it doesn't hurt enough." And that's the position a lot of times people will find themselves in. They break up with somebody, and maybe it's not pleasant, but it's not hurting enough to make them do anything about it. And that's where you come in, and that's where I come in, and that's where we come in together, and we make this person feel the consequences of the breakup. That's the goal of this, because they are not going to try to get back together with you if the breakup doesn't hurt, if there's not consequences. And the more that you interact with them and remind them that you still want to be with them, the more they are enabled to continue the breakup, because it is not costing them anything. Before I get to number 3, get my $7 reunion blueprint. Did I mention it's only $7? It's a really great guide. It's the important stuff to help you get your ex back to know what they're thinking. And it's called the Reunion Blueprint. And you can get that at reunionblueprint.com. That's reunionblueprint.com. And it's only $7, so anybody can afford this. Price is not an excuse to get this and get the tools you need to get your ex back. reunionblueprint.com. Thank you for listening to my commercial and for your support. Or if you're married, get my free mini course on saving a marriage. You can get that at marriageradio.com. It's under the marriage help section, and it's the free mini course on saving your marriage at marriageradio.com. Number 3, as I've mentioned, there needs to be negative consequences for your ex if they are going to be motivated to change the circumstances and get back together with you. No contact and radio silence together are great to make them feel the consequences, because radio silence and no contact prevent your ex from getting closure. A lot of times, your ex won't feel the need for closure the first couple of weeks after the breakup, because they're in this relief stage and they're just thinking that they're going to enjoy their new freedom. They've gotten the awkwardness of breaking up with you over with, and so it feels pretty good, even though they probably do worry that you're hurting because they're concerned about you, and they expect to see that you're hurting, you're struggling with this. And when you don't show them that, they actually don't get a lot of closure, because they want the closure of thinking that it hurt you, but that's best for them, and you're okay, you'll be okay, but you're going to want them back, and that's just the reality of it, because they were the ones who decided to break up with you, which means they kind of feel somewhat more attractive than you in that moment, even though a lot of people will disagree with me and say, "No, I broke up with somebody and I didn't feel more attractive." Well, the process of you breaking up with them, you being the one to do that, actually causes that imbalance, because this person wants to be with you, but for whatever reason it is, you don't want to be with them. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Your attraction to them is not as much as theirs to you, or else you would not have broken up with them and the situations would not have been strong enough to make you break up with them. If attraction is high, you can endure a lot. So basically, that's the situation that was set up. And if they're not sure how you're doing, even if they don't know what to expect, but they want some sort of update, they don't get closure. So even if they wouldn't have gotten closure from you posting pictures of you walking your dog online, or just a headshot, or a post about your favorite team winning, or some new phone you got, or whatever you might post about, even though those things aren't necessarily about the relationship or the breakup or them, it still gives them something to where they feel like the information is available if they want it. And that's how we are as humans. As long as we feel like it's available, if we want it, we're good. But if we feel like we don't have access to it, and I'm going to get into more of that in just a little bit, but that becomes a problem because we don't get closure through mystery. So by being mysterious, by taking away their ability to get information on you, even if the information doesn't really contribute to their closure, just the fact that they don't get it means they won't get closure. And when there's not closure, there's an opening. And when there's an opening, you have a chance. Number 4, radio silence triggers FOMO. And no contact can do this too. And FOMO, of course, FOMO, means fear of missing out. Because when someone who we have an intimate relationship with, and you still do with this person, even though you aren't speaking and they've broken up with you and all that, you still have this bond and this attachment through chemicals like oxytocin, vasopressin, and dopamine, among other things, that are produced just by the thought of them, by the sight of them, by the scent of them, by touching them, those kind of things. And so you still have that. And when someone that we are intimate with becomes a mystery, where we don't know what they're doing, it triggers something very similar to FOMO, because it's kind of wondered, what are you doing? You must be doing something because you're not posting. That's kind of what we feel, because if you think about it, if you text somebody and they don't text you back right away, you assume they're busy. If they're not posting on social media, you assume they are so busy and they're having so much fun, they're not even posting on social media because they're living life. So you start to assume those kind of things, and it can create something very similar to FOMO, because they want to be doing those things with you. Even if you're broken up, they don't like the idea that you could go out and have fun with other people, because we are peculiar creatures, human beings. Even if we don't necessarily want to be with someone or don't think we do, that doesn't mean that we are totally fine with them being with someone else or doing things with other people or doing things independently of us. It can create FOMO, which again contributes to all of this. If they're having difficulty finding closure, if their seek and find pattern is interrupted, if there's a psychological void that they will try to fill to replace you, all of those things combine together to make this more difficult for them. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this breakup difficult for them. And most of the time, people in your situation do the opposite and make it easy and make them actually want to get away from you by reaching out, begging, pestering, pleading, checking up, just want to see how you're doing, all that kind of stuff. That will cause them to think, I haven't escaped, I'm not free yet, so I've got to work harder to get free. And you don't want them thinking they have to work harder to get away from you. You want them thinking they can stop working to get away from you, because it looks like you are not even coming after them, that they can't even see you. They're looking as far as the horizon. You're not there because they're not seeing you. That, in addition to all that I've mentioned, can be very impactful on your ex. Number 5, I've mentioned this a little bit, but I'm going to talk about it here in this point, and it's where you are, or at least seem to be, inaccessible. And like I said earlier, it's one thing to want to find the information or to want to talk to somebody, and knowing that you can, all you have to do is do this or go over there or send them a text. But when they think they could not get to you, even if they wanted to, and it's not even true, because hopefully you haven't blocked them, because I talk about how you don't need to do that, but they're not necessarily thinking about texting you. They might be at that point where they're thinking, well, I can't do that because I broke up with them and I don't want to lead them on. And we're actually trying to disarm them from that concern, because if you can get attraction and mystery and curiosity and concern all high enough, they don't care if they lead you on. And at this point, they just want you back. And that's, of course, where we want to get to. But if you go radio silent and it's like you disappeared, you're not giving information to anyone, you have pulled out from your participation as far as being visible to the world, it creates the illusion that you are inaccessible, that they could not get to you. Because a lot of times after a breakup, your ex will use social media if they have any kind of little inkling of missing you. They go look, see what's going on with you, and it kind of makes them feel better temporarily. So you're taking that away from them. You're kind of suffocating that emotional crutch of just getting a little bit of information on you. You're not even letting them have that. And it can make you feel inaccessible, like you're some kind of celebrity they can't get to. That can definitely create more value, more attraction, more mystery, more intrigue. And it can really be a frustrating thing. And that's what we want. We want your ex to be a frustrated person without you. Before I get to number 6, this is a reminder, my $7 reunion blueprint. It's only $7. The price will be going up in the future at some point, but right now it's just $7 and you can get it at reunionblueprint.com. And it's a terrific guide to help you get your ex back. reunionblueprint.com. Number 6, radio silence creates a phantom relationship. And that's basically where their mind will do this without them consciously thinking about it or creating this in their head on purpose. But it doesn't make sense to their mind that you would just be gone and that they couldn't talk to you. And so they will actually kind of have pretend conversations with you in their mind. And they can be about all kinds of things, but it's them trying to get some of that intimacy back. And when you don't give them any information, like I talked about in the previous point, and you seem inaccessible, it creates a phantom relationship where they can actually participate with you in this relationship in their mind. And they think back to the positive things. And this is what's really important about this. They romanticize the past because the fun times, the positive experiences are where they can actually enjoy the relationship while broken up with you. And at first this seems bad because it feels like this could enable them. But if they think back on some of the nice, kind, warm things that you did for them, the supportive things, some of the physical fun maybe that you two have had, they reach a point, as we all have, where your imagination is just not a good enough substitute, or else we would all just sit on our beds all day and imagine life. But actually living life and doing things is far more fulfilling. And so all this does is whet their appetite to want more from you and with you. And because of the way that their mind works, in this case, it works in your favor. They will create sort of these fake scenarios in their mind where they're having conversations with you, and then they will pause from that and they will remember conversations with you. They will remember experiences with you. And when they realize that they don't have it, because it does feel good in the moment, thinking about those things, remembering those things, but it's a short-term thing, and then they go back to realizing they don't have it. So it kind of has a whiplash effect. They feel like they have it for a minute, and then that only makes them realize they don't have it. And so the phantom relationship quickly becomes very unfulfilling. And if they feel unfulfilled because they're not getting you, then you become their source of fulfillment again. And it can cause them to pursue you. It can cause them to rethink the breakup and decide it's not what they want. Number 7, finally, all of this makes them wonder about you almost constantly. This can really create kind of an obsessive type of situation where they just can't figure it out. They can't get the answers. And they're tired of the phantom relationship. They're tired of remembering all the positives. Now they just want you. And the more that they don't get it, the more that they wonder, did I make a big mistake? The more that they wonder, could they get you back, or breaking up with you actually mess it up, where even if they did want it, they couldn't get it back. All of these things contribute to creating a form of obsession where this person can actually become obsessed with you. And that's really good if you're wanting to get your ex back. And so trust that these things can help and that it is your best move to back off, to pull away. Get my reunion blueprint for only $7 at reunionblueprint.com. If you're married, get my free mini course on saving a marriage. The link will be in the description below, but you can go to Marriage Radio and it's under the Marriage Help section. That's marriageradio.com under the Marriage Help section. If you like this video, please click the thumbs up. If you'd like more videos like this in your feed, please subscribe to this channel. This has been Coach Lee, and as always, thank you for watching.